One thing that Pete Carroll said to me that still sticks with me today, he said that there's no mistakes, there's only opportunities to get better.
Welcome to Beyond the Game, Wealth Mastery for Athletes. I'm Kris Benson, private equity real estate investor, and I'm joined by 9-year NFL vet Alec Ogletree. Beyond the Game is a podcast where we will provide a playbook for financial growth both on and off the field. Join us each week as we'll have in-depth conversations with other pro athletes as they walk us through how they've created wealth beyond the game, both on and off the field. They're going to share their triumphs, lessons learned, and setbacks along the way so that you don't make the same mistakes. Join us. I think you're going to have a lot of fun. Welcome to Beyond the Game with your host, Kris Benson and Alec Ogletree. Today, we had Winston Justice as our guest, NFL 8-year vet, 2010 Walter Payton Man of the Year award. Really interesting guest. He's currently in financial services, financial advising. We're the group called Alliance Burstein out of Nashville, Tennessee. So if you're up that way, please look him up. But really interesting episode. Not only did he have a fantastic football career, he's regarded as one of the best tackles ever to come out of USC. Played for the Broncos, Indy, Philadelphia Eagles on many of their Super Bowl runs. So great football career, but really interesting guy. Talks about the transition to financial services, some of the imposter syndrome that goes along with that psychologically as he made the transition to the business world. Some great advice on networking and finding ways to make connections while he was still in the league. And I think the other thing that I really loved is his focus on being present in the moment. And he wishes that he had the opportunity to do that more. He's working on some meditation. He's also got some neurofeedback devices that he shares with us to help him do that. But all great things that I think make the episode a fantastic one. Hope you enjoy it. Winston Justice joins us on Beyond the Game today. Winston, pleasure to have you.
Thank you for having me.
We appreciate it. Join us from Nashville, Tennessee. Winston, 8-year NFL vet, 2010 Walter Payton Man of the Year award winner, strong career out of USC. But I'm most curious, Winston, I want to start with a question that I'm always interested about is you're about 10 years out from retirement, right? You came out in 2014?
Yes. Yeah. And it goes by fast.
That is for sure. My question is, how have you thought, what in the last 10 years, how has your thought processes changed around life? You come out of the league, you have to essentially reinvent yourself. How do you think differently now than you did, 10 years ago coming out of the Broncos?
Well, like just like everyone, you get 10 years older, right? You think about life differently, right? Some of your perspective, changes. One thing that's different is I really have a high effort to really be more present. I think when I was playing, I was always thinking about the next game or the next workout or the next thing after. And time does go by fast. 10 years, it went by like this. It felt like I was just, doing camp with like the Broncos. Now I'm turning 40 this year, and so I'm really making an effort to really be present in the current circumstances that I am. I have 3 kids, 16, 13, and 12. And so how am I present in their lives, right? I work at Alliance Burstein. It's a investment management firm. How am I present in the lives of my clients? And how do I show up? And not just show up like physically, but actually like be there in the moment, right? Is something that I'm really, trying to do.
Have there been specific practices, meditation, things that have helped you do that more effectively?
It's always it's always an evolving thing, right? I do quiet times in like the morning. I know it's almost like, hey, my day now is really scheduled back to back, so it feels like you're taking a step back, right, to really take time to really think, right? But actually, my quiet times in the mornings are really, really beneficial. And then also taking time to really schedule out your day. Some of the biggest differences when you are playing is your day is pretty much scheduled for you. You're right. You have meetings that I don't remember now. Alec, you probably remember. It's like 7:45 meetings, and then 7:45 meetings, and then you go to walk through, then you eat lunch, then you practice, then you have more meetings, then you work out. It's all scheduled for you. When you're done, it's kind of like you have to do that yourself, and you do have the discipline to do it, but you're really working a new muscle because you have to structure that yourself, right? So taking time to really structure it is really beneficial, but then also taking time to really think and meditate is good, and that's really evolved over time. I really got into neurofeedback. Have you guys heard of neurofeedback? No,
No, I haven't. What's that?
It makes sure that all your brain is firing on all cylinders, and so there's actually there's a company called Nestry that does an awesome job. They're based in Orlando, and I go down there. There's a business here called Tennessee Neurofeedback, which is great. It helps me focus. It helps me to think more clearly, think outside the box. And I'm looking at this now. I got this thing here. It's like you put it on. I can put it on for you. And let me see which one's forward. All right, this way. So you put it on, and it's like this. All right, you put it on, and then it sends like messages to your brain to make sure your whole brain is firing. And so in the morning, I would put this on, and I'll read. I'll put this on, and I'll read my commentary for the morning, and then this is something that helps ground me. So this is when you start. I have a very extreme personality, and I went all in. So this is what I'm doing now.
For those of you guys just listening, it's like a headset, like earphones with sort of a device over the top of his head. Yeah. When you say it's shooting messages into your, what do you mean, like transmagnetically, or what's coming out of it?
It's like there's a magnetic frequency, and it is helping your brain like fire on all cylinders. And so, hey, look,
just drink some C4, Kris. Keep drinking your C4s. Don't worry about it. You keep drinking your C4 and get amped up and get your brain fired.
I do that too. C4 makes a good product.
Sure. For sure.
Just a quick aside, Winston. My most recent sort of health hack is: have you ever heard of the guy Brian Johnson, the guy who's trying to not die?
Oh, I read about
Blueprint.
Him. Yeah.
So Alec, I don't know if you know him, but he sold his company to PayPal, I don't know, for like $200 million, 5 to 8 years ago, something like that. And he's essentially become the most tested human being on the planet. So he publishes all of his data on his website and tracks essentially anything that you can possibly track. It's a family show, so I won't get into some of the stuff, but it's crazy the amount of data he puts out. So he just put out, it's called the Blueprint, essentially like supplements / potions, pills that he would publish all of the food he ate, and everybody said, hey, this is too hard. Like, you got to make this easier for the common person to do it. And so now it's in like powders and pills. So I'm 30 days in. I'm going to do it for 90 days and then do some blood work, see what I've accomplished. But there will be a time.
Not to die?
That's his whole thing. It's not have fun. His life, I wouldn't say, is fun. It is only optimized to not die.
He's trying to stay young too, right?
Age backwards. He's trying to age backwards. Yeah. Benjamin Button style. Yeah. It's interesting. But anyways,
it's impossible to do. But yeah, I understand. I get it. All right. Eventually, it's going to stop working. So. I mean, hey.
Well, it's the greatest idea ever, right? Because if you're an anti-aging guy and you die, well, who cares? You're dead. Nobody can talk crap to you.
Exactly. Yeah.
So Winston, you say you're at, is it AB Bernstein?
Yeah,
how you say
I'm at Alliance Bernstein.
And And you've been there for how long? Like what
So
how long have you been there?
Last verse, I'm going on 6 years. So it's
okay.
Yeah.
And so in my reading, like up on you and stuff like that, I saw that, you know, you used to be the NFL player rep and all this stuff, and you said that doing that kind of helped you transition into kind of the business world. Like you went back, you wanted to start, you know, learning while you were playing and doing all that stuff, right? So I guess just kind of tell me a little bit more about like what happened, like while you were playing. Like obviously it was a lockout year that happened too with you and everything like that. But like just kind of, you know, what happened? What triggered you to be like, you know what, was it like you growing up and you just wanted to become an advisor, or what else happened along the way?
You know, it kind of triggered through fear, I guess. You know, I didn't grow up in the best circumstances, and I didn't want to go back to that situation. And so, out of fear, I saw a lot of people get cut that were good. And everyone always says that NFL is not for long. I mean, your whole livelihood is really dependent upon, you know, a GM that doesn't really know you, that doesn't really know the full situation. A lot of times, the GM's never really played the game before, and so out of fear, I was like, man, I want to hit the ground running. Just in case I get traded or cut, and it did eventually happen. You know, everyone gets traded or cut. That I could still use football as a platform to do something even like better. I didn't want my life to end at 30 when I was done playing. And so I was like, well, like, what do I like? You know, when I was at USC, I majored in public policy. That's like a major just to stay eligible to play. But then afterwards I was like, man, yeah. And then I was like, well, what can I do like that one I could kind of keep up the lifestyle that I'm used to, but also what do I like? And I like being entrepreneur. I like being an entrepreneur. I like the public markets. I like the private markets. I like when I heard people talk about it, I was interested, and so that kind of sparked it. Being a player rep kind of put me in an environment where it made me think more about it because the lockout kind of brings that into fruition. Like, hey, this could end at any moment. I want to hit the ground running, and so that's what caused me to go and get a master's in finance, and then wanted to start a small VC fund. And so I did it with a fellow athlete. I did it with Jamal Mashburn, who's been he was an awesome mentor, right? And then that whole experience made me realize I wanted to get on the public side, right? And I also started a chain of coffee shops, right? Which I enjoy.
While you were playing?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
your brother-in-law, right? It was your brother-in-law or something, right?
Yeah, I did it with my brother-in-law. We used to go on mission trips, and every place we went to, there was like a place where like the locals came and got together and exchanged ideas. And it was great. Like, we used to go there too and just be around the atmosphere, right? And we want to do that in the here in the United States. And my brother-in-law was in Malibu at the time, and we think about doing it in Malibu. To make a long story short, he ended up coming to Philly to visit, and I was like, well, why don't we just do it here? We'll probably get a good deal. Maybe we get a deal from like Eagles fan. They didn't. No one gave us a deal, but but we still did it. we still did it in Philly, and our first one we opened up was in 2010, and we just grew organically. We ended up roasting our own beans. My brother-in-law is still there, so he stayed in Philly. When I was traded, he stayed. We ended up opening, a couple coffee shops there that are still operating and running. We end up opening 2 in Nashville. Then we bought 1 outside of Penn State, and so we're going on 9
So
locations now.
Franchising? Are y'all franchising that stuff, or is it just kind of you guys
it's just family business? Yeah,
just family business.
And I use that as a giving tool. Like, we give a lot of those profits away. And so I grew up going to boys and girls clubs and going to YMCAs, and so we give a lot of those proceeds away. And But look, it's awesome. It gives me an opportunity to do it with my brother-in-law, with my wife. I get my kids involved. They're like sweeping and stuff. They're at the register. So we definitely enjoy doing it. I think for us to really monetize it, we need to open up like 30 stores, and that's something that I don't think me or my brother-in-law want to do right now. You know,
Winston, a question we get a lot, like, how did you know what to do? I mean, it's one thing to go on a mission trip and see a coffee shop, right? It's another thing to open a location and figure out how to run a coffee shop. Where, like, walk us through kind of some of the stumbling blocks when you guys got started. Was it just you and your brother-in-law, or did you guys bring somebody in who knew how to start a coffee shop?
No, it was just me and my brother-in-law, and I was playing at the time. My wife named it. It's called Elixir. And to answer your question, we didn't know. We didn't know what to do. We kind of we had an idea. You have an idea with structure. I mean, but I don't think you're ever really going to know fully like what to do. I mean, there's a lot of times where, like, hey, I know about 20% of what to do, 40%, and that's what we're going to have to do. Like, we didn't really know how to do like, I don't know, payroll, rent. You had to pay, taxes. You had to pay for the energy bill, water bill, insurance. There's a bunch of stuff that, like, hey, like, you might think, oh yeah, of course you got to do that. But then when you like open up a shop, you sign a lease, you're like, oh, I got to do all this, yeah. So you kind of just, and you figure it out as you go. And we started off small. We did one shop, and we had our build out was cheap. We had the Amish community do our wood. Have you guys been in Philly? There's an Amish community there that actually still does our wood today. They actually I mean, they might not be Amish. They're Mennonite.
Mennonite?
Yeah, Mennonite, because they could drive.
Yeah, you guys are close to Lancaster, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the huge population there. Yeah.
Yeah, and so the shop we opened up here, we're really cheap too. The same wood guy drives. he drove down and put our wood here. So to answer your question, we did it now. What to do? We just kind of put it together, and that was the same thing through, when I was done playing, starting at Wells Fargo as an analyst. I felt the same way. I felt like I didn't know what to really do at the beginning, but then you figure it out.
Mm-hmm. You keep going. Now, I mean,
like life.
A lot of people just kind of they'll hit those stumbling blocks or whatever roadblocks, and they just kind of quit. But things that happen to you, whatever, you like, you know what, we're just gonna keep going. We're gonna figure it out along the way. And obviously, you said it was something to do with the family, so that kind of incentivized you a little bit more to keep going and stuff like that. So you mentioned you had a fund and stuff, right? You did a fund, or did you say you did a fund, or you had a fund? Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
how did that go?
Small,
so that's
yeah.
Go ahead.
It went good. It was a learning opportunity there. I realized what. No, it's good. It was a learning opportunity.
I love when people say,
what do you mean by a learning opportunity? What's a learning opportunity?
It was a learning opportunity. You either win or you learn. One of the two.
Which is both winning, right? If you learn, they're both winning, right?
Yeah.
So in the private venture capital world, I think to add real value, you need to be an operator. Like, you need to learn, you need to know how to operate a business. And because if you don't, you're really just hoping on, this management team, they're a pitch and the little time you have with them. Right. And at the time, I didn't have management experience. And so I don't think I was able to add value to the companies that we were investing in. Now, I'm not saying that other venture capital, managers do that, and they do that well. They do, right? I just didn't have that skill to just know what to invest in and not be a manager. So that was a learning experience. But through that learning experience, it made me realize that I'd rather be on the public side of the investment landscape, because you have more information. So I'll have more information on a publicly traded company than I do on a private company. because it's public, and so there's less. It won't go to zero, meaning that Coca-Cola is not going to go to zero, or JP Morgan's not going to go to zero. So if I buy JP Morgan, it's gonna, it's safe. It's safe, but it's safe how I could grasp it, because some people that are in private equity, they think what they're doing is safe. But actually, if you look, if I'm assessing it, I'm saying that's really risky, but to them, it's not. For me, JP Morgan is not going to go to zero. That for me, that's the fact that if it goes to zero, we have bigger problems. I'd rather have a portfolio of companies like that than companies that can go to zero.
On the venture side, Winston, were you focused on a specific type of company, a technology, or were you guys looking at, like, give us the kind of the parameters? What was the buy box?
It was healthcare and early childhood education.
Okay. And you said you partnered with Jamal Mashburn on that, right?
Yeah, Jamal Mashburn.
What was the tie into him? Like, how did you get involved in it? So,
my father-in-law, he started this company called Intercom in Detroit, and he was really good friends with Isaiah Thomas. I might be getting the story wrong. They started a printer company. They became really good friends, and then he took Comp US. Intercom sold it to Comp USA, and then he took Comp USA public. Then he started with a private equity firm called Sterling Capital out of Chicago. I'm going to get to Jamal. When he was a partner at Sterling Capital, Jamal reached out, wanting to know more about private equity and how to get into private equity because of the connection with Isaiah Thomas. And my father-in-law was like, "Yeah, great, yeah, I could show you about private equity, but why don't you connect? I'll connect you with my son-in-law." So that's how we got connected.
Got it.
Yeah,
it's always about who you know.
It's all about who you know. Yeah, and surrounding yourself with people that are smarter than you. Yeah, that's what I'm
Your father-in-law still at Sterling Capital?
He is. Yeah, he buys for-profit schools now, so he's still going. He needs to slow down, but he has a personality that he doesn't slow down. he's still going. Yeah,
part of that generation, they can't stop.
He can't stop. No.
Yeah.
Winston, is there, when you made that transition to kind of the venture side, or even maybe after your playing career to the Wells piece, is there some sense of imposter syndrome that goes along with that? Like, hey, I don't know if I'm good enough to be here. I mean, I think of it from the athletic standpoint of, I guess when you guys first get to the NFL, like Alec and I have talked about this, like you have to have the mindset that you're good enough to be there, or you don't survive. How does that work when you're stepping out of your strength, athletics, into a space that you potentially don't have that experience? Is there a mental side to that?
Hey, Kris, you bring up a good point. That imposter syndrome is strong, and maybe it's just me. At Wells, I felt that imposter syndrome because, one, you walk into a room, and that's starting to go away because I'm getting old now, but you look like an athlete.
Winston. You just turned 40. You and Alec are babies.
Yeah.
Enough on this.
You're seasoned. You ain't old, you're seasoned.
Yeah, I'm seasoned. I'm getting real seasoned. But when you walk into a room, you look like an athlete, right? You look like one. And the very second thing people are going to say, did you play somewhere? Especially if you're in finance. Like, there's not too many, like, 6 or 7 black guys in finance. It just isn't. It's just not that. Is not that many. And so when you walk into a room, people are like, "Oh, you must have played something," and then it's the stigma that goes with it. It gets you indoors, but then you have to really be compelling to stay in the door, right? But yeah, that imposter syndrome's strong. Like being at Wells Fargo, it did feel like, man, do I really belong here, or should I, do something different? And then that was just persistent, but it's something you have to walk through. It's a feeling that comes into your mind. It's just what you do with that feeling. After Wells, I was a portfolio manager of a fund of funds. I really felt that way because I used to walk into the room with big institutions with really smart people that went to awesome schools and awesome accreditations. And I'm like, man, like, and this is what I'm saying to myself, man, they're really going to listen to what I have to say? Like, like.
You like, I took public policy.
Yeah, I know exactly. Yeah. I was like, oh man, I really only know about 40% of what I'm joking. I'm not joking,
But I think, Winston, it's important, right? Like people believe like that everybody's got everything figured out, right? And the truth of it is, especially, athletes transitioning sort of into the business world, is we're all winging it. Whether you own, it's $1 billion assets under management or $100,000, like everybody is figuring it out as we go. And Alec, to your point, some people have some more seasoning than others, but I 100% agree with what you said, is like, you can get in the door with the name or the resume, but then you got to figure it out just like everybody else does, whether you went to Duke or, you went to a state school in New York, like I did. I mean, yeah. Everybody just kind of figures it out as we go.
I totally agree. That's what I realized in business is that it's a bunch of guys just trying to, well, women too, a bunch of people just trying to figure it out. And you might have like a name or like Goldman or JP Morgan or Alliance Bernstein, but at the end of the day, on the other side, it's a team of people that are literally asking the same questions we are, like, or having the same feelings that we have. Like, they're just trying to figure it out. It's like on like an offensive line, you have five people. We're in a meeting room. We're just trying to figure it out. People think, oh, you play for the Eagles or you're playing for, the Rams. Man, they must got to figure it out, right? We're trying to, we're in our meeting rooms trying to figure it out. Like, we don't know yet,
Game planning. You game planning.
Yeah,
exactly. Doing all that. Yeah. It's all that.
Yeah.
No, I always say, like, yeah. No, I always like, it made me think about, because I like, when I tell people about, playing, I'm like, it's hard to get into playing the football, right? Hard to get into the National Football League, right? But I'm like, it's even harder to stay in it, right? Like, because everybody's good, right? Everybody's doing the exact same thing. I don't care, the top team to the bottom team, anybody can be beat any given week, right? So it's not just that this top team just has everything figured out. Like, the margin of victory is like very small, right? And so I've kind of found that same feel, like you said, like in the business world, it's like, all right, if you had the right team, everybody believe in the same thing, it's like, it's a no-brainer. Yeah, you're going to go out there and confident in the information that you give out. Like, you feel confident in, what you guys are presenting to your clients and stuff. And, at the end of the day, obviously they have to, make the decision for themselves. But you guys feel, good enough about the information you got and the research you've done to, share that with them. So it kind of leads me to my next question, which was, when you came, I guess, so you're a financial advisor, right now, or did I make that up?
Oh, yeah, I do. I try to.
Okay.
Yeah, but finish your question.
Okay, and so when you're, I guess my question is, when you're advising somebody, are you telling them kind of your experience? Like, not necessarily, who do you kind of look for? Is it a certain group of people that you're going after, that you're targeting, or, is it different?
Yeah.
Different people, doesn't matter.
To your first question, the name financial advisor, I was very apprehensive about taking the job at Bernstein because of that name, right? Actually, I told Bernstein I don't want to be called financial advisor because it's this stigmatized of being almost like an insurance salesman, right? I didn't want to be like an insurance salesman. I'm not saying insurance salesman's bad. I mean, it's good. I mean, I buy insurance for a insurance salesman, but I just didn't want to be called the financial advisor. And so, I realized that being an advisor, you're really living life with people, because people will talk about anything, addictions, problems, but when it comes to money, people are really guarded. And Alec, me and you come from a world where your contract is like on ESPN, so it's different for me. Like it's like whatever. I mean, that's what it is. But people are really guarded about how much money they make. And it doesn't matter how much you make. You could be $100 million family and still be really guarded. But so to be in those living rooms is like really, really sacred. And the answer to your next question is like I can't project my risk profile on someone else. And so when I'm advising on the information that they give me. So I need to really delve deep on what they really, really want. And then also like what are some of the feelings or emotions that are behind those choices? Because look, I mean, I'm and on the spectrum, I'm more of a riskier investor, right? If someone's like, 67, like they shouldn't be in that risky of investment. It's just a different profile. It just depends. And so I can't project what I want on someone else. They have to get that information from them and actually create a portfolio that meets their goals. But the type of people I work with, when I first started with Bernstein, I didn't work with people. I worked with institutions, small ones. So that's like a nonprofit, a foundation, a symphony, a small school, and that, or yeah. So they weren't really. My client wasn't people. It was basically an institution, and I reported to like a board. All right, and that naturally grew to working with people because people were on those boards, and they were like, well. You work with institutions, like, do you do the same thing for people? And I was like, well, it's the same thing, right? Yeah, I do. I know about 40% of it. Yeah, it'd be good. Yeah, I do.
I do now.
I do now, which is true. I mean, the biggest difference, I mean, some of these family offices, families with generational wealth, you're creating a portfolio for generations that aren't even born yet. And the same thing for an institution, you're creating a portfolio for spend that's going to go on forever. And so it is really similar. There's other things that have to do with it. I mean, there's taxes. The institution isn't really taxed, that, people are. So, there are some differences, but there are some similarities, enough similarities that you could be really effective on both. And so I started working with family offices, and most of the family offices I work with, they have an operating business. So they have operating business. They have multi-generational wealth that they want to pass on, and they have a lot of complexity. And so those are primarily the two things I focus on are, smaller institutions and then family offices.
Winston, with that 10 years plus of experience at this point, put yourself back in 25-year-old Winston in the NFL. How would you advise you? So looking at knowing what your playing career, NFL stands for not for long, right? You have this finite window to create wealth. How does 40-year-old Winston advise 25-year-old Winston?
I would try to meet as much people as possible because I learned so much from just having coffees with people and meeting with people. I would really go out my way to just create relationships even more. I felt like I did that, but like it wasn't really top of mind. Like I felt like I did create relationships, but I wasn't really. I wasn't really. Aggressive isn't the wrong word. You don't be aggressive making, but yeah, intentional. Exactly. Perfect. Yeah, I wasn't intentional. I would make intentional relationships because people would take your call when you're an NFL athlete. Now, people take your call after, but like it's
not the same.
Not as much. It's not the same.
It's not the same.
Yeah, unless you do something great after. I mean, some people do. I mean, I could name you some, but yeah. And so I would do that. I would try to meet as much people as possible and create as much relationships as possible. And one thing I didn't do is when you're 25, you don't look at your teammate and like want to create a relationship because it could be uncomfortable. It's kind of weird, going out to coffees and like getting the families together. You're tired. You want to just go home and like watch, I don't know, TB. I don't know. I don't know what I was thinking at 25, but I would also make a more effort to make a relationship with my teammates too.
In what way? You mean like personally, just personally connecting with them?
Personally, yeah, because when you're done playing, it's hard to recreate that community, and I think God made you to be in community, and it's harder to do it when you're 31 and you have a family, and then you have to, you're in certain situations that had certain experiences that other people just haven't shared with you, and so like when I'm an analyst at Wells Fargo and like my other analyst is like 23 and I'm 31, like what are we gonna? Great, it's a great person, but like what are we gonna talk about? Like what shared experiences or what community can we really share? It's just a gap there. It just takes harder. It's like hard to do, but if you have that embedded community when you're done, you can always have someone to reach out to and share a life with. Because if you're just by yourself, it's hard to get over a lot of challenges. You need someone to look around your blinders,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I totally agree with that. Like, I'm, fairly new from done playing. I think I've intentionally like created some relationships, like via really kind of through my son's school, right? It's a lot of like kind of former athletes and stuff over at my son's school and stuff like that. So it's helped me to kind of relate to some of those people like that. I don't feel necessarily naked out there, but I do remember like maybe 3 years ago, like kind of before I got done, like, like you said, like you just home and you just like, man, who I'm about to talk to? And like, if you don't necessarily have as you said, like you kind of had that relationship while you playing with your teammates, but it's just completely different because you guys are there all day. Then once you're done, you got to go home, be a family man, and you kind of disconnect from like, you like, that's work. And this is like my other life over here that I'm living, right? And so a lot of times a lot of people don't get to jail with the other teammates outside of that. So it's like very important to do that because as you said, like once you're done playing, it's like, not necessarily that you necessarily want somebody you want something from somebody or something like that, but it's also nice to be like, okay, we share that experience together and like, I understand what you're going through in life and, you can just have conversation and not feel like this is a one-sided thing, because as you said, like we come from that community and we lose that once you're done playing. Like I hear it all the time from guys, just like losing that community. I don't have nobody to talk to. Like they doing this, they can't do this, right? And it sucks. It's a terrible situation. It shouldn't be like that. But for one, I think the problem is part of us is so guarded in our relationships and all that stuff like that, and meeting new people like. As you said, you walked into Wells Fargo, you 6'7", like this, like, he must have played. And now you got to go through that whole spiel, and it instantly just puts a wall and stuff like that. But I always try to like, I'm kind of like you, like, yeah, like I did play, like, yes, I played. That's great. But that's not all who I am, right? Yeah, that's not all who you are, and you know that. But a lot of people have a tough time kind of getting over that hump of like you said, when people first meet you, they automatically assume that you play some type of sport or whatever, right? And like you said, come with that stigmatism. But I think part of it is, like I said, us just, once something like that happens, we can't move forward because we just stuck right here. Like, they just only see me as this person, whatever. It's like, nah, man, like that's a part of your life. That was a really kind of a small portion of your life, actually, because you only played, you playing 8-9 years at, some people longer, but at just, the short end is 2-3 years, right? And so it's so short. And now you got this whole other life you got to live and, kind of form and do all that stuff. So it's always like interesting to hear people. And I was glad to hear you say, you're like, yeah, I was there like with Wells Fargo and like I said, they come with that stigma. They ask me that question, but it was like, okay, I'm gonna keep going because I know who I am. I know what I want to do and strive to be.
Well,
so that was
well,
definitely
that's what happens
awesome to
now.
hear you say that.
And people still say that now. Even I've been at AB
all
for
the time.
Years. Like, oh, you must have played something. Why'd you stop playing?
All the time, like,
what do you mean? I wasn't good enough anymore. That's what happened.
Because I'm seasoned.
I couldn't raise my arm anymore. It wasn't
like I don't want to play. What are you talking about? Like, do you see this?
Yeah, no.
Do you see what happened to me?
I know. Yeah, that's what happened. It didn't work out.
I was like, why are you not playing? Why are you not playing? That's a real question.
Yeah. No one ever asked me that question. No one ever asked me, like, why aren't you still playing something? It's surprising.
Yeah.
Winston, what would you tell your kids, right? So you've had this a really unique experience of a really successful career in the NFL as a NFLPA agent, right? So you kind of saw the business side of the business, and now you've immersed yourself in 10 years of really unique, not just individual experience, but institutional, let's call it institutional equity as well. What are you telling your kids? Like when you sit around the dinner table and talk about finance, or if I was to ask your oldest child right now, how do you think about money? What do you want them to think?
Oh, about money, or about life in general?
I'll take either. I know you got to go, so I want to be thoughtful of that, but I'll take either.
Either. I always tell my kids to ask questions, as much questions as possible, and sometimes it can feel forced at first. Like, I have nothing to ask. Like, I really don't care. But there's always something to learn, right? And what I mean by asking questions is that everything is a learning opportunity, right? When you're having a conversation with someone you meet at the store, right? You could ask a question. If they're getting interviewed for a school, that's what just happened like two weeks ago. The person that's interviewing you can ask questions. So that's something I always encourage my kids, my kids to do. One thing that Pete Carroll said to me that still sticks with me today, and I'm not sure if he remembers me, but him even saying that, he said that there's no mistakes, there's only opportunities to get better, right? And so that's what I tell my kids. Now there's some of the nuances to that. Now sometimes you do make a mistake, and like that's not like you can't use that to get better. You don't turn your homework, like that's not a mistake, That's just you just making that choice.
It's a good pitch for your kids, though. It's a good pitch for your kids to use with you.
That's an opportunity.
And, my kids will probably use that too, like a PowerPoint presentation or something like that. But, I would, that's what I say to my kids a lot. Ask questions, and there's no mistakes, only opportunities to get better. And then in terms of money, I always tell them that, saving at an early age is really important. My kids, they did summer jobs, and last summer, and they're gonna do it again. But every time they work, they donate to the Roth IRA, and that's something that I always encourage them to do. Because that grows 5 years tax free, and then you can take that out. And so investing at an early age is really beneficial.
Before everybody kind of leaves, we just asked that you shout out how people can find you, get in contact with you via Instagram, X, LinkedIn, whatever the case may, whatever you have, whatever tools you have.
And so look, I don't have any social media. So I don't have Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter. Actually, my assistant just started a LinkedIn page for me. I don't know the passcode. The code to get in yet. That's something I was going to do actually today. It's actually on my to-do list right here. Actually, do to-do list. I write them out. So it's so it's something I need to do. So I do a LinkedIn. I just need to figure out how to sign in and put a picture and all that. But maybe I could send that to you later on when I get the nuances.
No, that's fine.
I'm not leaving.
We'll make sure look it up. I just got my LinkedIn together like maybe 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I didn't realize like how big of a thing that was. Like, 'cause I was like,
it's a big thing.
What?
Yeah, people like look at me
it's
like,
huge.
why aren't you on LinkedIn? Like I did something wrong, you know? So
yeah, same.
Well, Winston, a pleasure to have you. I appreciate you sharing your journey with us, and hopefully there's some great wisdom that people can take out of that. And we'll certainly stay in touch with you, and hopefully we can do this again very soon.
Yeah. Thank you again. I really appreciate it. And if either of you are in Nashville, we'll love to host you.
We'll do.
Sounds great. Thanks, Winston. Thanks, Alec.
Thank you for tuning in to Beyond the Game. Please like, subscribe, comment on your favorite platform. It helps others find the show.